Are you ready for change? That's the question. As was said, I'm the managing director of EARMA. That's the European Association of Research Managers and Administrators. It's a very long title. I didn't come up with it. But it does cover what we want to be talking about today. So I'm going to be talking about my job, but also my passion. I'm really day in, day out working on this, working on the association. So what is the momentum of research management within Europe? I hear research administration having been mentioned a few times. It's research management I'm putting in here. The terminology is a big problem. I think I'll get to that in a moment. And that's also one of the things we want to address, and the project that was mentioned wants to be addressing. Before I do that, I think it's important to say a little bit more about my organization very shortly and myself, and relate that to what I want to be telling you, what I want the message today to be. So we are a non-profit association which doesn't have any big backing, no interest group, no government. We're not getting money from the EU. Where we're getting our money from, where we're getting our means from, is from people such as yourselves in the room. People who realized back in 1995 and before that they needed to get together to network, to exchange best practices at the European level, to be able to really service their researchers in the best possible way. So it's very bottom-up, it's community-driven. So what I'm going to tell you today is really coming from that kind of an angle, from the community, from people trying to make this a better situation. So we exist to be useful to our members, obviously, but also we have a much more inclusive, holistic view of the full RMA community that we want to be servicing. I'm going to say a little bit about our size, just to give you an idea. It's about 192 at the moment, institutional members. We also have individual members, so that's research performing organizations, some research funding organizations, also some research councils and such. Very academic. 95 to 97% academia. Universities are a big part of that research organizations. I started at VUB, rolling into research management in a really accidental way. And I rolled in, I was just, after my studies, I didn't really know what to do, and I found this job as European funding advisor at Brussels University. Actually, my first job was to look at contracts, look at budgets for proposals, post-award as well, and input that into the database. That database was then upgraded to Pure later, coincidentally. Obviously, because we agreed that it was the right way to go. But the thing there was, I came into that environment and pretty much anything that had to do with EU funds, that had the EU flag on it, was thrown at our office. And we were trying to deal with it. We were trying to read up, we were trying to ask our colleagues first in the department, outside of the department, then different universities within the country. But as we were answering these questions, it got more complicated because researchers really liked that we were there, that we were motivated, trying to help them as best as we could. But it got to a situation where they needed more and more complex support. So I realized what I need to be doing here is international networking. I need to have a network across Europe where I can get quick information, where I can find the specialist, because it's getting so huge. You cannot have all of the information, but you can know somebody who has the information. And if they're a call away, and that's one of the important things you're doing also with the pure user groups, as I understand, and here today, if you can call somebody who knows, then that really makes your life much easier. So I ended up with BestPrac, which is there in the center, which was a cost-funded action about research administration. And there I learned about EARMA, so the current association I'm with. I joined as a member in the professional development group, and there very much being about professional development, I was trying to figure out, from a member's perspective there, I was trying to figure out, how does this work? Are we supposed to not know everything in sort of European funding, not really have any standards, be constantly moving on the lookout for the new thing, and so on? How many projects should we be able to handle, for example? How does this work? What are the systems that we should be having or should not be having? Those kinds of questions. And I found out that there's more questions than answers. That's especially at that time. Now, what are these standards? And that's something I want to say a bit more about. So what are these standards? What is research management? And that's a very difficult question. I can answer it firstly by saying what our inclusive definition of it is. So anybody supporting research, administrating research, managing research, anybody, also researchers who are blended professionals, for example, who are doing partly research, like there are a lot, and partly research management, administration, support, whatever you call it. We all include them and want to make a home for them within EARMA. Now, let's have a look at what is really an inclusive container term, research management. There is no real identified or accepted definition of research management. Obviously, there are some people have put stuff forward, but generally accepted across Europe, let alone across the world, is not there. What I'm showing you here is how inclusive it is up to an extent. This is something published by the European Commission some time ago. You have the link there if you want to get more information on it. Research management can take many shapes. Research policy advisors, research managers, financial support staff, data stewards, research infrastructure operators, knowledge transfer officers, business developers, knowledge brokers, innovation managers, etc. Etc. is the most important word in that thing, because there's so many different ones. You might not recognize yourself here necessarily, but there's so many different ones, and it's out to be defined. The space is, let's say, in a sense, immature. With that, I'd like you to take out your phones and go and test that app that we have. So if you take out your phone and you go into the agenda, you go to this session, and then you go to polls, I believe. And you'll see polls live in there, and we're going to pull up a few polls. And what I want to try to do with you here is, I was talking about coming into this accidentally. That is the case for a lot of colleagues. And I want to see here in the room as well, is that the case? Did you come into your first job in this area accidentally, or were you preparing for it, educated for it? So let's have a look at that. Are we managing to get in there? Something I want to add while you're doing this is that we have looked into this quite a bit. You may know about the RAP survey or may not. RAP is Research Administration as a Professional, which is a survey started by Incura in the US, but which has gone global and which has identified that this is the case for a lot of people. So let's have a look if this is the same in the room. Okay, we see there the responses coming in. And did you come across your first job in this area by accident? So the yeses have it for now, somewhat as well. No's are low, not applicable is reasonably low as well. Okay, let's see how that evolves. We got around 120, 170 people here. So I think this is a good indicator to show indeed that this is very much the case. And of course you could say that's the case for a lot of jobs outside of, obviously, if you want to become an architect, a doctor, and so on. But it is often up to the extreme for us because our niche is not known, our niche is not defined, and that brings the problems also in regards to job descriptions, career paths, and so on. That's something we want to be tackling. Okay, then we go to the second question. And what do I mean here? Does your current job description reflect well what you do in first hand? And is it understood by your manager or the manager of your manager and your colleagues, excluding your closest colleagues? Because I really do hope your closest colleagues know what you do. But does the system around you know? Did they design it in a good way? You feel the job description, does it cover what you're doing? And does the person that made it, your manager or the manager of your manager, understand? And does your department understand what you are doing? Okay. That's not too bad for now. Okay, coming up to 100. Although I'm saying not too bad because it's almost 50% on the yeses and yes to an acceptable degree. That is within the research management area, not too bad at all. Somewhat also a good percentage. So I think that reflects reasonably well with the overarching research management community as well. So for a lot of you, at least 50%, you've got a problem because imagine that an accountant would say, my job is understood by my direct environment, which hired me. It's understood somewhat, or no, only partially, or to an acceptable degree. Probably wouldn't be happy with that. Now, of course, accountants and some other professions are standardized and professionalized up to a level that probably in our dynamic environment we won't get to, but that doesn't mean there's not a lot of work left to do. So the final one, do you identify either as a research manager and or administrator? Do you feel like you belong to that community, or have you never heard of it? How do you feel about that? And I want to say there, while I see the answers coming in, Yes, okay, 37% yes. So we're up to 70% yes or somewhat, which is good. Most research managers and administrators don't identify as such. Now, you're probably a different subset because you're already networked. You're at a conference about a similar topic, let's say, so that is very biased, but most people don't. We estimate that there's at least 100,000 in Europe, which is quite significant, which is a quite significant number, and most people don't identify as such, but they identify with their various sort of local circumstances. Now I want to get into the momentum of research management. So what is happening, what's going on here in this space from my perspective? This is not, I'm not going to show you the definitive truth. I'm not going to show you this is how it's codified, standardized, because as I identified, that doesn't really exist. But I'm going to touch upon 3 things that are designed to get you to think about this space. From a community perspective, on the one hand, then from the researcher and research performing organization perspective, and then the momentum of the EU, which I know quite well. Now, I messed up A, B, and C a little bit. I hope you'll forgive that for me in the coming slides, but the story will be somewhat coherent. So with so researchers and research performing organizations, put yourselves in the mind of a researcher, which a lot of you probably were at some point, or you've been closely working with them, and then the organizational level as well. They're dealing with growing complexity, constantly complexity being added as science, but also everything around it is growing more complex, and in a very competitive environment. A competitive environment for research funding, for students, for a lot of things. So from my perspective, there are 2 things that have a huge potential to make this a better situation. It's not going to solve every problem necessarily, definitely not in the coming years, but it's on the one hand experts and specialists, which I identify here as research managers, sort of the community that I'm closest with, and then there's systems. So systems, AI, automation, machine learning, everything you have there is crucial. I see these 2 coming together. There's so much potential for improving academia, for improving research as it stands today. Now, systems, I'm probably the person in the room who knows the least about systems, so I'll not be touching upon that a lot. The rest of the conference is about that. This is about the people. This is about, it's about you. So what are the challenges? And in the run-up and in my other slides, I've really highlighted quite a few of the challenges. So how can these people, these experts, these research managers, science managers, administrators, how can they help research performing organizations? How can they help researchers get to deal with all of this complexity? And one of the key things there is the time the researcher can spend on research or innovation. So how can we, as a community, try to improve efficiency and effectiveness of research performing organizations? What are the struggles we have there? And it's lack of training and networking that is specific, a lack of appropriate career paths. And I want to relate back to what I said earlier about my career. I was super motivated. I was there for 4 years. I'd been promoted twice. And I went to my head of department, so what's next for me? I can do more than this. I can service our organization in a better way. And the way the university was set up, he said, Nick, I have to level with you. There's people here 20, 30 years. They've been promoted once or twice. And this is pretty much as far as you can go, except for take my seat, which wasn't really what I was into. Plus, the 15, 20-year waiting game was also strange. So there was no real career perspective for me, no career path. I could stay there on my chair next to also, in some cases, with a university, not so motivated people who would get a small pay rise every year, who would get this and that. But there's no career. How do I progress? And there's different ways to progress as well. Even staying in the same position, staying in that there's a number of things you can do, but there is a lack of a plan for this, and that comes from every organization, department is, in a sense, to say it disrespectfully, making it up as they go along, and I'll say it more respectfully, in one of the next slides. There's also a lack of capacity. So are these people there? Are they there at all of the organizations? And a lack of recognition. Recognition that goes with certification, training, career paths, salary scale, opportunities, training, networking opportunities, and so on. So these are the challenges that we're having as a community. What are the current answers? Because I've been painting a pretty grim picture, right? Sort of nothing, it looks like chaos a little bit as I described it. There's nothing standardized. People are making it up as they go along. So what are the current answers? And actually, it's definitely not that negative at all, in the sense that it is diverse. It is endlessly diverse, because some people who have created fantastic things in this space, some are research administration machines, really very well equipped, but others have, and who have built their own internal career paths, who've built, and that's the final one there, they've found or created their own professional development opportunities, internal mobility. They're big units, often big organizations. But then there's also the other side where there's almost nothing, or an administration that is seen as an evil in a way. There's some interesting quotes. The Research Prevention Office is one that I've heard in the past. So that's the unempowered research manager. Also, somebody asked me upon a time, what do you do? And then he said, when I was a research manager, is that a full-time job? He asked me, a researcher. So, okay. So there's a lot of work in awareness. What you can also do is outsource to consultants. That works very well if you do it in the right way, but that's not a let's fix it, easy, buy it, and it will all work and continue to work. And that's the main challenge, of course. So it's an endlessly diverse landscape. And there is the sort of the usual perception of strong regions in research and innovation versus weaker regions, but actually also in pretty much any city you could find an organization that is very good, kilometer down the road that is, well, I don't want to say awful, but that is less good, let's say. Okay, so what are we trying to do about it at EARMA and also at different networks? One, we're trying to facilitate best practice exchange and information exchange, much like you're doing here today, I think. We're trying to set up conferences, create a platform at events, at online communities, to be able to exchange between colleagues. Because bottom-up, counteracting what I've been saying, the problems is just sharing between colleagues directly, so that works quite well. Providing professional development and training and certification, it's not just us, it's national associations. There's you've got EARMA, DARMA, FINARMA, SARMA, now CHARMA, which is a nice one, which was just founded in the Czech Republic, or Czechia, since some years. And also what we do is promoting research management and administration as a profession. Much as I'm doing here today, in a way, I want to make people aware of where they are. They're part of a larger community, a community that is evolving, that is, let's say, a strange, it's a niche within a niche. And the thing is there that it's a niche within a niche, and we often, I don't know how it is for you, but we're trying to explain to our families what we're doing. And it's very difficult. When I was working for 4 or 5 years, my wife was explaining to her family what I was doing, and I was listening to it, and I said, "This is completely wrong." But okay, so something to do with conferences and EU, and I don't remember what it was. And that's also that awareness. If it's hard to translate to your own family, it's hard to translate to your bosses or the bosses of your bosses. Then you have, in a sense, a problem, and you sense that there's something missing there. And that something that is missing is, to a degree, a plan. That is awareness, that is investment, and that's what we're trying to work on as well, especially with all of the stakeholders and the EU. Now, this is of huge significance right here. So what this is these are an extract from the council conclusions at the end of the German presidency at the end of 2020. And I cannot overstate the importance here. So science management, again, problem with the terminology. The council recognizes the growing need for professionalization. Wow, that's really something. The council, which probably never heard of research management before, saying it, yeah, I'm being too direct here, We're videotaping, right? Okay, yeah, that's good. No, the people in the council are fantastic, great expertise, absolutely. No, but we are a niche within a niche, and the council here did a fantastic job in recognizing the growing need for the professionalization of research management. Because what this does, and the rest of the sentence recognizes the growing need for the professionalization of science management at research performing and funding organizations, including through digital skills in order to improve their ability to participate in the European research area-wide collaboration networks. Now, the significance of this is that when the council, the political level, opens the door, this makes the Commission able to move. This actually doesn't mean only that they are able to move, but that they are forced to move. They must implement now policy about the professionalization of research management, which, if you would go back 5 years, 10 years, people who've been around for a while, is something you wouldn't have imagined that would be happening at this moment. So the momentum is strong, and within my career has never been stronger in any case. So there's really good momentum happening there at the European level. Also, the Council calls on the Commission to launch a pilot action for a Europe-wide networking program. So Europe-wide networking program for colleagues such as us. For science managers, including research infrastructure managers. I don't know if there's anybody from research infrastructure, but they see that as one of the big working point where a lot needs to be done. Now, as I said, the Council opened the door for the Commission. These are not my slides, as you see by the changing theme, but these are slides from the Commission from an event a month ago. Obviously, I have asked for permission to use them, and I'm going to show a few things. So that policy that is coming to be is the Research Management Initiative developed within DG R&I. It's part of the larger new European research area. And within that, without going into too much policy-oriented talk, which would take us quite a while, there are 4 priority areas. And those 4 priority areas lead to the ERA, the European Research Area Policy, which has 20 actions. Those are 20 actions that will be taken up by the Commission in the coming more or less 3 years. And there's a very, very interesting one in there. And that's the one, I hope you see it in blue, the number 17, which disguises itself in being a bit general, but says strategic capacity of public research performing organizations and research funding organizations. And when you drill into it a little bit more, I want you to look at the bottom there. The Research Management Initiative, so this is European policy, which didn't used to be the case like this, so this is a great breakthrough. It's about upskilling, recognition, networking, capacity building for research management. So upskilling, improve training and skills and research management staff, recognition contribute to that professionalization called for by the Council, and then networking, so support best practice exchange, capacity building, support less R&I intensive regions, but also organizations. As I said, there's also poor, let's say, research management organizations in countries or contexts where you would expect the opposite. Now, alignment there is fantastic. So the alignment with what I just said, what's the problem we're having, what's the main issues we're facing? And then if you look at it, you're going to see a lack of training and networking. Okay, we've got here training, we've got networking, lack of appropriate career paths. We've got that within recognition, within upskilling to a point. Lack of enough capacity building. Lack of recognition and contribute to professionalization. So this means that what we have as an idea of what needs to be done from a community perspective is mirrored 95 to 98%, in my opinion, with what the Commission is currently putting out as policy, which is a huge thing because often there's a disconnect between top-down and bottom-up, but we're finding each other there at the European level. Okay, then we go to that second part, and we go to the Council calls on the Commission to launch a pilot action. A pilot action is a project for a Europe-wide networking program for science managers, including research infrastructure managers. And this is the lovely Ger Hanley that you see here, who is a colleague from Ireland, who, together with me, has spent a lot of weekends and evenings writing a proposal to answer that call. And now we are ready for change. We are ready to bring all of this together with this project. We got that project, and we are building a plan for the future. So to take what we have and try to make it a more coherent future for the larger community, the research management community, and the different pieces of that. And that's what we're going to do in a project called RM Roadmap. So we wanted to be very descriptive of what we want to do. We are building a roadmap, like there are many roadmaps, but this is not just a project for us. This is not just a plan. This is intertwined with the reason of the existence of our community, of our association. So it is building a better future together. And how do we want to do that? We want to do that through a big co-creation exercise. So this project is set up not to get together with a number of experts, with a few people, with some people internally here, with the international partners that we have in the consortium. What we're trying to do is bring pieces together. We're trying to connect new and existing networks to really ask around in Europe, what is your opinion of where we need to go? What is your situation? Because that situation is often unknown, or we don't have enough data for policy-making decisions. We want to have evidence-based policy on this down the road, which is hard to do when there's not enough there to be worked with. So we want to create a bottom-up consensus of what the future is of research management, but we also want to see what is out there already in training, networking, mobility, funding, and make that more accessible. Now, there's an important part in this as well. I talked about the potential of research management, about how we could make a difference in the system towards our organizations, towards our researchers, but we're trying to take a very holistic view of it, because if we want to have a game changer for ourselves in a way to unlock the potential that we have as a community, we need the whole system to be on board with, okay, that's what those guys are doing, approximately. This is their value to the system, and this is what they could help us solve. Because often as a community, I'm saying, okay, we need this, we have lack of this, we have lack of this, we have lack of this. We bring it to policymakers, but they're in a position where they're constantly getting questions, okay, invest in this, invest in this, invest in this. So what is it that you're bringing to the table? What can you help us solve? How can you make research better? And I think we have a lot of work to do in articulating our USP, our sort of our value, our role within that system. And we're often talking about funding, but I think this crowd will probably recognize also very well the gains we need in efficiency and effectiveness, in quality control. Also, one of the things I said before, and this is very important, it's probably the most important resource that we have is highly educated, niche research being done, and the research time of those researchers that are doing it. And one of our key goals must be to open up as much time as possible for that group. And where we can take away workload, we have to be able to do that in an efficient and effective way. Also, trust and accountability is very important, especially with the reproducibility crisis. Policymakers also want to see both, let's say, at the funding level, at the ministerial political level, but also at the internal research performing organization level. They want to see that there can be trust and accountability. We're getting taxpayers' money, so what are we doing with that? How are we handling that in an effective and efficient way? Now, I don't want you to dissect this full slide here. That is a pretty busy slide. But what I want you to take away from this, and you can read it afterwards as well, is that what is there, we're not trying to reinvent things. We're trying to bring everything together. But often the knowledge at the moment is it's scattered, it's unavailable, it's exclusive, context-dependent, multidimensional, and so on and so on. But we want to bring this together in a plan. I'm also not promising with this 3-year project of $1.5 million that we're suddenly going to solve everything, but we want to have a solid plan, solid data that people can build on to improve things. Now, we're going to gather everything we can. We're going to do a desk study. We're going to do quite a lot of things and feed that into a big online co-creation exercise, which you yourselves could also be a part of. We're going to make national communities and also communities that are thematic, so which are pretty much the parts of that larger container term that is research management. You see there in the middle in orange, Cardea. Now, actually, the Commission didn't call for one project in the end, as the Council asked, but 2 projects. There is our project, our roadmap, and our sister project, Cardea. Cardea is coordinated by UCC, University College Cork, in Ireland, and we're trying to set up a great collaboration with them to have 2 approaches, and they're very much coming also from the HR side of things. The coordinators there are from the HR office. We want to bring all of that together, get that in focus groups as well, to policymakers, to researchers, to other stakeholders, and build a plan for the future, so build a roadmap. So that's really where we're trying to go. But you could be asking me, okay, or you could be thinking, that's a lot of countries, Nick. That's many actors. We're looking to get at least thousands on this thing, at least thousands. So how will you do that? How can you really do that? And we're counting there on the volunteering power of the community that we have. Because I'm standing here in front of you today, not because somebody with a lot of money at some point said, okay, we're going to fund this thing called EARMA and let's work with it. We're here because some colleagues said, okay, come over to my university, I'll get a room, I'll get some catering paid somehow, and we'll stand up here in front of the stage and share best practices. And growing that from a community perspective, that's where I'm coming from. And we're counting on that spirit to be alive today, and it very much is. We're counting on working not only through EARMA, through our consortium, but with ambassadors all over the place from national associations, which we have good contacts with, and not only from our perspective, let's say. Also, we've got ASTP in there, which a lot of you hopefully will know, which is the knowledge transfer equivalent from our side, BestPrac, which was the network that I alluded to before, which is much stronger in the EU 13 and the widening countries. We've got CrowdHelix in there, which is also a network, but a software community building space, impact acceleration company as well. And so we started a consortium based off of this. How can we grab the community, and how can we work with all of you? How can we engage and strengthen the networks that are there, and also start new networks? That's a little bit, we're not starting them from scratch, but we're trying to bring people together that they would start their own networks in a way, maybe a little bit like the pure user groups, although I don't know enough details about that. And we want to, in the end, give those national communities the everything they need. Well, we want the roadmap is mainly meant for the national level, because as you see, EU policy, what we want at the European level is aligned in a quite good way. I think we'll get there, but the game changer is not at the EU level. It's not in EU funding. People like yourselves, research managers, they are employed at research performing organizations, funding organizations, different organizations, and they're funded at the national level or to private companies or whatever the setup is. So the game changer is at the national level. So we can't go to all of the countries and tell them what to do. That wouldn't work. That's not what we're trying to do. But we want to give them, what I said, the plan, the arguments, the value proposition, the business case, the way to talk to policymakers, the way to develop training. We want to give them a plan or roadmap for that. So in 5 to 10 years, we could get to a game changer. And I want to finish up by telling you all, please engage with this if you can and if you want, but engage in your own communities. And really, the key thing for me is how will we make this a better situation, mainly yourselves, through being good at your jobs. And being good at your jobs and showing researchers and people internally what you can do is crucial to all of this recognition, buy-in from the policy level. The thing there, though, is a mistake that I've made in the past quite a lot, is if you think you work hard and people see the results, that's not necessarily the case. You need to work hard, be good at your job, but also tell people, and especially internally. If you look to it from a management perspective, if you're doing well in very difficult circumstances, that's neither a crisis nor something that will necessarily provide a lot of value. You're doing well. Management is looking often at where's the crisis, where are we having critical failure? Let's attack that. And on the other side, let's look at sort of where we can get huge value, and we'll never probably be the most sort of sexy, well-known, aware sort of topic. It's research management. So in a lot of people's mind, it's far away. They don't have the awareness. So we're often not both of those, so you have to do the work and show it also to the people around you. And I want that to be one of the key messages to take away. Being good at your jobs is the first and primary thing for this, but the second thing is also there is momentum. Buy into the momentum if you want, if you can, let people know about it, and let's work together towards a game changer in 5-10 years. And we're building a plan. I hope we can count on you to collaborate if you see that as an opportunity. So with that, I want to thank you so much.